The battlefield didn't fall silent all at once. It died in pieces. First the artillery stopped screaming. Then the orbital fire winked out. Then the last defensive turret coughed sparks and went dark. What remained was smoke. Thick, metallic, bitter with the stench of ionized plasma and burning composite armor. Sergeant Lucas Vance stepped over the shattered remains of a combat drone, its optic lens still flickering weakly as if confused about why it was no longer receiving commands. His boots crunched over spent shell casings and fragments of exosuit plating. Each step echoed in the hollow quiet like an accusation. His HUD flickered with static. Comms. Offline. Squad signals. Lost. Command uplink. Destroyed. He tapped the side of his helmet anyway. Titan squad, sound off. Nothing. Not even interference. The Zyrex assault had been precise. Surgical. They'd punched through the Alliance line in under 40 minutes, overwhelming defenses with sheer mass and coordinated strikes. First came the aerial swarm. Then the artillery suppression. Then the ground surge, claws, plasma, and relentless numbers. Lucas remembered Corporal Hayes dragging a wounded Lavarian warrior toward cover before a shockwave erased both of them. He remembered Lieutenant Arman shouting fallback orders that never reached the outer trenches. 40 minutes. That's how long they held. Lucas survived because a collapsing barricade had thrown him into a crater seconds before the plasma wave rolled over the ridge. Lucky. Or just last. He adjusted the strap of his Mark X plasma rifle, feeling the hum of its power cell against his shoulder, one of the few steady things left in a world that had just broken. Wind shifted the smoke. The ridge was gone. The command post was gone. His squad was gone. His motion tracker pulsed. Lucas froze. A faint life signature flickered 30 meters ahead, partially shielded by the wreckage of a collapsed artillery platform. He dropped into a crouch, rifle rising smoothly. Enhanced muscles tensed under his scorched armor as he advanced through drifting ash. The signal was weak. Irregular. Not Zyrex. Too stable. He rounded the twisted artillery housing. And stopped. Half-buried beneath fractured alloy lay a figure that did not belong in the dirt. Her armor was ceremonial, sleek, sculpted, etched with flowing alien glyphs that shimmered faintly even through soot. Cracked now. Burned. Streaked with luminous silver-blue blood. Her hair spilled across broken stone like molten starlight. Lavarian. And not just any Lavarian. The crest at her collar, fractured but unmistakable, bore the sigil of the High Sovereign Guard. Royal blood. A warrior elite. One of humanity's strongest allies in the war. Her eyes fluttered open. Storm gray. Focused. Unafraid. His medical overlay activated automatically. Spinal trauma. Severe. Neural disruption. Complete lower paralysis. Mobility. 0. In the distance, Zyrex hunting calls echoed through the smoke. She heard them too. Then she looked back at him. "You should leave," she said calmly, voice melodic despite the ruin around them. Lucas didn't answer. The battlefield stretched empty behind him. No friendly signals. No backup. Just him. Everyone had retreated. Everyone had chosen survival. Everyone had left her to die. Except him. Lucas's visor filled with cold data. Vertebral column. Fractured. Neural link. Severed below T7. Internal bleeding. Critical. Survival probability. Field conditions 4.1%. The numbers didn't hesitate. They never did. He crouched beside her anyway, one hand steadying his rifle while the other activated deeper medical scans. Microfractures spiderwebbed across her spine. The impact had crushed her lower vertebrae beneath the collapsed artillery mount. Even Lavarian physiology couldn't shrug that off. Her breathing remained controlled. Disciplined. "You see it," she said softly, studying his visor. "My body will not move again." Lucas didn't deny it. Behind him, his HUD flashed a new directive triggered by confirmed squad wipe. Retreat protocol engaged. Preserve remaining combat asset. Immobile Allied personnel to be abandoned. Combat asset. That was him now. Just him. The wind carried distant Zyrex screeches through the smoke. They were sweeping the field. "You are alone," she continued calmly. "Your communications are destroyed. Extraction unlikely." Her storm-gray eyes held no panic, only clarity. "If you stay, you die." Another pulse hit his motion tracker. 5 signatures. Closing. He calculated automatically. If he left now, he could reach the canyon ridge in 6 minutes. Maybe 7 with debris interference. He could disappear into terrain shadows, regroup with orbital fallback if any survived. He might live. She followed his silence. "You fought well," she said. "Your unit bought valuable time." Lucas's jaw tightened. He remembered Hayes falling. Remembered Armand screaming through static. Remembered dragging 2 Marines before the plasma wall rolled through the trench like liquid fire. He'd let go of one of them. He hadn't had a choice. The Zyrex calls grew sharper. 200 meters. "You do not owe me this," she said. "My people understand sacrifice." "That's supposed to make it easier," he muttered. She didn't answer. The retreat directive pulsed again in his vision. Clean. Logical. Efficient. He looked at her instead. Royal Lavarian armor cracked and dulled by ash. Blood still glowing faintly against shattered stone. A warrior who had crossed galaxies to stand beside humanity's lines. And now she lay paralyzed because she had fought for them. "You should go," she said again, firmer now. "That is not a request." The motion tracker spiked. 150 meters. Lucas exhaled slowly. Protocol said leave her. Logic said run. Survival said disappear. He stood. For a split second, she believed he had chosen correctly. Then he slung his rifle across his back. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "What are you doing?" He crouched again, not to reassess her injuries, but to slide one arm beneath her shoulders, the other under her waist. His armor servos recalibrated with a low mechanical whine as he lifted her. She gasped despite herself. "This is irrational," she said sharply. "Human, this will kill you." "Yeah," he replied through clenched teeth, adjusting her weight against his chest. The Zyrex broke through the smoke behind them, claws scraping against wreckage. He turned toward the canyon ridge. "I didn't survive this war," he said quietly, steady despite the chaos closing in, "to leave someone behind." And then he started walking, into enemy fire. Lucas ran straight into the smoke. Not blindly, never blindly, but with controlled aggression, boots pounding against fractured ferrocrete as enemy plasma lit the battlefield behind him. The Lavarian princess rested securely against his chest, one armored arm hooked around his shoulder for balance. Despite the paralysis in her lower body, her upper frame radiated strength. "You are compensating poorly," she observed calmly. "Good to know," he replied between breaths. "Next time I carry alien royalty through a war zone, I'll stretch first." "You shifted your center of gravity too far left," she continued, ignoring the comment. "Adjust 3 degrees." He did. Her weight settled more naturally against him. "Better," she said. "Glad I meet Sovereign Guard standards." Motion tracker flared. 4 hostiles ahead," she said instantly. 2 visible. 2 concealed behind the wreckage of that dropship. He didn't question how she knew. Instead of charging forward, he pivoted right and ducked behind a collapsed barricade just as plasma tore through the space he'd been running toward. "Flankers elevated," she added. "They prefer vertical pounce patterns." "Yeah, I've noticed." He shifted her slightly, bracing her with one arm while bringing his rifle up with the other. The movement was awkward, until it wasn't. Her hand snapped up from her forearm bracer. A ribbon of silver-blue energy flared to life. Even paralyzed from the waist down, she twisted with lethal precision, releasing a focused arc that sliced through a Zyrex mid-leap. Lucas fired simultaneously. Plasma bolts striking exposed joint seems exactly where her awareness nudged him. 1, 2, down. "You shoot well," she said. "You call targets well," he replied. "More movement." 6 now. "Encircling." "They believe you are slowed by carrying me," she said. He smirked beneath his visor. "They're not wrong." "You are," she corrected smoothly. Plasma fire raked their position. Lucas dropped behind the shattered hull of a transport, shielding her fully with his body. Heat washed over his back plate as a blast detonated against the metal. "You are absorbing unnecessary fire," she said. "I've been told I'm durable." "You are reckless." "I've been told that too." Another Zyrex rushed from the smoke. Lucas pivoted, but she was already firing from her bracer, energy cutting through the creature before he completed the turn. He blinked once. "Okay," he admitted. "That one was yours. I am aware." They moved again. This time smoother. Less awkward. She anticipated his turns. He adjusted to her subtle shifts in tension. Her heightened senses filled the gaps his scanner missed. His raw power and marksmanship compensated for her immobility. Improvised. Effective. Deadly. For a brief second between bursts of plasma fire, their faces were inches apart, smoke swirling between them. "You could still leave me," she said, but the words lacked earlier insistence. "Yeah," he replied. "But then who'd critique my posture?" Her lips curved faintly. "You flirt during combat," she noted. "Multitasking," he answered. A Zyrex screech erupted dangerously close. They didn't flinch. Instead, they moved as one. He fired. She struck. Another hostile fell. And somewhere between enemy volleys and burning wreckage, respect replaced obligation. Because he wasn't just carrying her anymore. They were fighting together. The canyon narrowed ahead, shielding them briefly from direct Zyrex fire. Half buried within the rock wall lay the remains of a Lavarian command skiff, sleek, crescent-shaped, its hull cracked but not fully destroyed. Lucas ducked inside. Emergency lighting pulsed faintly, bathing the interior in soft silver glow. Then he saw it. At the center of the skiff's medical bay stood a crystalline structure unlike anything human engineering could replicate. It rose from the floor in a spiraled column of translucent material, veins of light flowing through it like liquid starlight. The air around it felt charged. The Lavarian princess went still in his arms. "Set me down," she whispered. He lowered her carefully onto a stable platform without taking his eyes off the entrance. "What is it?" he asked. Her storm-gray gaze locked onto the structure. "A sovereign convergence chamber." "That sounds expensive." "It is sacred." Outside, distant Zyrex screeches echoed again. "Closer." Lucas glanced back at the crystalline column. "Will it fix your spine?" "Yes." He paused. "And?" She drew a steady breath. "It does not merely heal. It restores through biological resonance. It requires 2 participants. One injured," he said slowly, "and one whole." He didn't like that pause. "The chamber forms a neural bridge between both subjects," she continued. "Genetic structures synchronize. Emotional states align. Physiologies adapt." He stared at her. "Adapt how?" Her voice lowered. "Permanently." Silence filled the skiff. "The bond cannot be undone," she said. "Among my people, entering the convergence chamber with another is more binding than marriage. It joins bloodlines. Futures. Royal lineage is guarded carefully." Another impact rattled the hull. Lucas stepped closer to the chamber. "Are you warning me?" he asked evenly, brushing his glove against the cool crystalline surface. "Or proposing?" A faint silver-violet flush touched her cheeks. "I am explaining consequences." He looked down at her. "If we do this, I won't be entirely human anymore." "No." "And you won't be entirely Lavarian." "No." "Will it heal you?" "Yes." The Zyrex shrieked just outside the skiff. Time was gone. "You should leave," she said again, softer now. "This choice alters destiny." He crouched and lifted her once more. "I already altered destiny when I picked you up," he replied. He stepped into the chamber. The crystalline walls shimmered instantly, reacting to proximity. Symbols flared to life across the surface, ancient Lavarian glyphs igniting in cascading patterns. She reached up, resting her hand against his chest. "You accept this without hesitation?" she asked. "I didn't carry you through enemy fire to hesitate now." The chamber sealed around them. Light erupted. Not blinding, enveloping. Energy flowed through him like liquid fire, threading through muscle, nerve, marrow. He felt something ancient brush against his consciousness, fierce, disciplined, proud. She gasped. He felt her pain dissolve, her strength surge, her guarded loneliness unravel. And she felt him, his stubborn loyalty, his quiet grief, his refusal to abandon. Their DNA responded, not clashing, but weaving together in harmonic patterns. Two evolutionary paths crossing, aligning, rewriting. Their foreheads touched as the light intensified. War faded, fear vanished, and in its place, connection, chosen, unbreakable. Something new had just been born, and neither of them would ever be the same again. The light receded slowly. Lucas blinked, and realized he could feel more than his own heartbeat. The Lavarian princess stood before him. Standing. Her posture was regal, effortless. The fractures in her armor had sealed into seamless silver contours. Faint currents of luminous energy traced beneath her lavender-toned skin, pulsing in rhythm with something he now recognized. Their shared rhythm. She flexed her legs. No hesitation. No weakness. "I am restored," she said. But he had already felt it. Her thoughts brushed his awareness like a second layer of perception. Not intrusive. Not overwhelming. Interwoven. Outside, metal screeched. Zyrex. Approaching fast. Right side breach, her voice echoed inside his mind. He turned before the transport doors detonated inward. 3 Zyrex burst through smoke and debris, plasma weapons blazing. Lucas raised his rifle. But he already knew exactly where to aim. Because she did. His first shot struck a shoulder joint with surgical accuracy. The second severed a plasma emitter before it fired. At the same instant, she moved. Twin arcs of silver-blue energy ignited from her gauntlets. She advanced with fluid precision, blade strikes flowing in perfect arcs that intercepted attacks before they fully formed. A combat symphony erupted. He pivoted left. She stepped right. He fired high. She struck low. Every movement complemented the other with inhuman precision. A Zyrex leapt from above. Lucas dropped instinctively to one knee. She vaulted off his shoulder as if they had rehearsed it for years, spinning midair to cleave the creature in half before landing lightly at his back. They rotated together. Back to back. Lethal dance. Plasma bolts and energy blades wove through the smoke in synchronized patterns of destruction. No commands shouted. No hesitation. Only instinct. Shared instinct. The Zyrex faltered. Their flanking maneuvers failed before execution. Their ambushes collapsed under predictive counterfire. Every weakness exploited before it fully existed. "Behind us," she warned. He was already firing. 3 more fell. Within moments, silence reclaimed the skiff. Smoke drifted across a perfect ring of fallen enemies. Lucas lowered his rifle slowly. She stood beside him, blades humming softly before fading. Through their bond, exhilaration surged, shared, amplified, undeniable. 2 species alone had fought bravely. But together, they were evolution. Unstoppable. The skiff fell silent. Only the faint hum of damaged systems and the distant echo of retreating Zyrex remained. Smoke drifted lazily through fractured bulkheads, illuminated by the soft residual glow of the convergence chamber. Lucas lowered himself against the wall, exhaling slowly. Across from him, the Lavarian princess stood whole once more. Not merely healed, transformed. "I can hear you thinking," he said quietly. "You think loudly," she replied, though her tone lacked its earlier edge. The bond between them pulsed gently now. Not the sharp clarity of combat, something warmer, deeper. He could feel her heartbeat as if it were his own. Her controlled breathing. Her lingering adrenaline. And beneath it, a new rhythm. Faint. Subtle. He frowned slightly. "Do you feel that?" he asked. She went still. Slowly, instinctively, her hand moved to rest over her abdomen. Through the bond, realization dawned first in her. Then in him. A spark. Tiny. Bright. Alive. Her storm-gray eyes widened, not with fear, but with awe. "It is too soon," she whispered. The convergence accelerated everything. Lucas swallowed. "You're sure?" She closed her eyes briefly, focusing inward through their shared awareness. "Yes." The spark pulsed again, fragile but undeniable, brushing against both their consciousness like a distant star beginning to burn. "Our bond didn't just merge us," she said softly. "It created something new," he finished. The weight of it settled between them. A child. Not engineered. Not planned. Chosen by consequence of connection. Outside, a distant Zyrex shriek cut through the canyon. The war had not paused. If anything, it had intensified. Her posture shifted subtly, warrior instincts reshaping around something fiercer. Protective. "We are no longer fighting only for survival," she said. Lucas stepped closer, placing his hand gently over hers. Through the bond, he felt the spark respond faintly to his touch. "No," he agreed quietly. "We're fighting for the future." The battlefield had already taken too much. This was something worth carrying through fire again. And this time, he wouldn't hesitate. Alliance reinforcements descended within the hour. Gunships tore through the smoke-choked sky while armored transports secured the canyon perimeter. Human Marines advanced cautiously beside Lavarian Royal Guard units, weapons raised, until they saw the readings. Inside the recovered skiff, system diagnostics flickered across holodisplays. Human tactical algorithms were synchronizing with Lavarian resonance matrices. Not clashing. Not overriding. Merging. Admiral Kessler of the Alliance stared at the projection. "That integration level is impossible," he said sharply. "Our technologies operate on incompatible harmonic principles." Beside him, Lavarian High Matriarch Seratha's silver gaze narrowed. "Not incompatible," she corrected slowly. "Misaligned." Lucas stood beside the princess, no longer merely a wounded royal, but something more. Her hand rested lightly over her abdomen. "It is not the systems," she said calmly. "It is our child." Silence filled the command chamber. As if in response, the canyon perimeter alarms blared. A final Zyrex assault surged over the ridge. But this time, the defense grid activated before anyone issued an order. Human plasma cannons recalibrated instantly, their output amplifying as Lavarian energy fields overlaid harmonic modulation patterns across the targeting matrix. Shield arrays shifted frequency mid-impact, redirecting incoming fire with fluid precision. On the holodisplay, it looked less like combat, and more like orchestration. A technological symphony. Every weapon firing in flawless synchronization. Every defensive barrier adapting in real time. The Zyrex charge faltered within minutes. Then broke entirely. Long-range sensors confirmed it. "They're retreating," an officer whispered. "Not scattered. Not annihilated. Withdrawn." High Matriarch Serath turned toward the princess slowly. "This is not laboratory synthesis," she said. "This is not forced genetic experimentation." "No," the princess replied steadily. "It is natural convergence. Love over war. Choice over control." The holodisplay shimmered again as their unborn child's faint consciousness brushed across the systems, not dominating, but harmonizing. Two species once divided by caution and protocol now stood unified by something neither had engineered. Lucas folded his arms loosely. "You can't force evolution," he said quietly. "Sometimes you just have to choose it." Serath exhaled slowly. "This child is not merely a hybrid," she murmured. "It is the next step." And for the first time in decades, the war felt smaller than the future. 8 months later, the canyon was unrecognizable. Where scorched trenches once carved the earth, a joint human-Lavarian unity complex now rose, steel frameworks interwoven with crystalline spires that shimmered in harmonic light. What had begun as a battlefield had become a symbol, not of survival, of evolution. Inside the Unity medical wing, human diagnostic panels worked seamlessly beside Lavarian resonance fields. No interference. No override conflicts. Just quiet cooperation. Lucas stood beside the birthing chamber, armored hands far steadier in combat than they were now. "You faced a Zyrex siege without hesitation," the princess said softly, silver hair cascading over her shoulders as another contraction passed. "Yet this unsettles you." "I prefer enemies with predictable behavior," he admitted. Through their bond, deeper and richer with time, he felt her strength, her focus. And their child. Brilliant. Ready. The chamber lights adjusted gently as the final moments arrived. Then, a cry filled the room. Clear. Strong. Alive. Lucas exhaled as their son was placed into his mother's arms. The child's skin carried a subtle lavender undertone that shimmered faintly beneath the light. Dark brown hair threaded with streaks of silver framed a small, determined face. When his eyes opened, storm gray met warm human amber in perfect fusion. A bridge between worlds. Monitors around the room recalibrated automatically, not overridden, not hijacked, simply harmonized by the newborn's presence. "He is already aligning system frequencies," a human technician whispered. "But gently," a Lavarian healer added. Curiously, outside the complex, joint fleets patrolled shared sectors. Diplomatic channels, once frozen by mistrust, now flowed freely. Zyrex incursions had diminished dramatically, deterred by a unified front no enemy had anticipated. Not domination. Not conquest. Unity. Lucas stepped closer, brushing a finger against his son's tiny hand. The infant gripped it instinctively. Through the bond, warmth radiated across all three of them, steady and powerful. A family. A future. He leaned forward, resting his forehead gently against the princess's. "When I found you on that battlefield," he said quietly, "I never imagined we'd change the galaxy."